Hi, I'm Amanda Littell Clark, and this is Gentle Yoga. I'm really happy to be offering you a lovely sequence today focused on grounding and awareness. And I'll be offering you different options that you can use with props, and you can take those options or you can choose not to. It's really important to honor your own body, so please do what feels right for you. If anything feels painful or uncomfortable, please stop what you're doing, regroup, come back into the practice when you're ready. And you might want to check out my warm-up video before we get into the practice. That's a really great way to get your joints moving and activate some of your larger muscle groups. It's also a really great way to get ready for your day. So let's begin. We'll come onto the mat, any position that you like. You may also want to have some blocks and a blanket nearby. I also have a chair nearby, just in case I want a little extra support with some of the standing poses. So we'll take our mountain pose, bringing our toes a little bit closer together, knees are a little bit bent, engage your thighs, tuck your tailbone under just slightly. Engage the core by pulling your navel towards your spine. Open the chest or the heart. Externally rotate your shoulders, palms facing forward if that's comfortable for you. Otherwise, hands could be anywhere that you like. Neck is long, crown of the head reaches towards the ceiling. And let's take a couple of breaths here. Eyes can be open or closed. So first you might start with your natural breathing as we come into the practice. And then you might start taking some deeper breaths, or we call those belly breaths. So on the inhale, it feels like the belly expands. You could even put your hand on your belly if you wish. On the exhale, it feels like the belly softens. So again, do that at your own pace, inhaling and exhaling. And one more breath. And then releasing your limbs, maybe shaking your legs. Moving into a tree pose. So you may want to have a sturdy chair or be near a wall. So you could hold on to that if you wish. Setting up for tree pose, you start to shift your weight into one leg, making sure your foot feels very nice and solid on the floor. Your knee is a little bit bent. Taking the hip joint and rotating the leg out there. You could even go around once or twice. Then keeping the leg out to some degree with a bent knee, choosing your foot position. So foot could be at the ankle, could be on your calf, could be higher up. Just do not put your foot onto your knee because that's not safe for your knee. So choosing the foot position. Hips are facing forward, trying not to crunch one hip up, trying to keep them about even with each other. Then choosing your arm position and maybe focusing on something in the distance that's not moving to help with your balance. Arms could be at the hips, could be heart center, could be above you, or cactus arms, or you could have one hand on the support and experiment with taking that hand off. Don't forget to breathe here. And one more breath. Foot can come down at any point as a little kickstand there. And then releasing, bringing everything down and giving it a shake and going to the other side. So shifting the weight into the other standing leg, feeling that foot nice and solid on the floor. Knee is a little bit bent. Rotating at the hip. Maybe taking a circle. Finding where you'd like to place your foot. Could be at the ankle, could be at the calf, could be higher up. Avoiding the knee joint, not placing the foot on the knee joint. Checking that the hips are about even, not hitched up. And facing forward, choosing your arm position, however you would like to get there, using your foot as a kickstand at any point. And breathing, one more breath here. And then release, lowering down and shaking it out and placing any props to the side. Now if you'll join me on your mat, we're going to be on our hands and our knees. And I'm going to use my blanket to cushion my knees, and you might want to do so, see what that feels like. So here we are in our tabletop position. Check to see that your shoulder is above your wrist, your hip is above your knee. Shins are on the mat, feet can be tucked under or could be lying flat. And we'll head into a cat-cow. So on the inhale, gaze up, lift the hips, drop the belly, and exhale, chin towards chest, round the spine. Inhale, gazing up, and exhale, round, navel towards spine, and repeat. So make these your own. They can be larger movements, smaller movements, faster, slower, whatever's your cup of tea today. When you'd like to, you could add some organic movement. Maybe you're rolling the shoulders, maybe you're swaying the hips back and forth, maybe you're tucking the toes underneath of you and shifting back to give your arch an extra stretch. Maybe you shift forward and make a circle with your torso around the mat. If we go one way, we try to remember to go to the other way. Maybe your wrists need a little extra warm up, gently placing the wrist one direction or the other. Let's see how I really don't put a big amount of pressure on the wrists. I'm just warming them up. So a few more sways or twists here. And then coming back into tabletop. From here, we'll come down into a cobra or baby cobra. So you'll start to shift your weight forward and lower your front body down to the mat. Shoulders are above the hands. Fingers are spread. Palms are gently touching the mat. Elbows are deeply bent and hugging the rib cage. So feel those arms hugging your rib cage. Tailbone is slightly tucked. Legs are zipped together. All 10 toenails are on the floor. On the inhale, raise the shoulders, externally rotate them, and then lift the head, neck, and top of shoulders off of the mat. This is very light. You could even raise your hands off the mat if you wish. Exhaling, lowering down. And again, inhale, raise up. And exhale, lower. And inhale, raise up. And exhale, lower. That's our baby cobra. If you'd like to do a more full expression of cobra, you could, on the next inhale, press into the hands, keeping the elbows bent to any degree, keeping the shoulders away from the ears, and then exhale, lower down. And one more time. Inhale, pressing into the hands, or stay with baby cobra if you prefer that, and then exhale, lowering down. And then when you're ready, coming back and meeting in tabletop position. From here, we'll head into downward facing dog. So again, hands are a little bit forward, tucking the toes, lifting the knees, shooting the hips up to the sky. Feet about hips width distance apart. Knees bent any amount. You could bend one knee more fully and then the other. Hands, palms pressing into the mat, fingers spread, first finger pointing forward. Feel the length from the wrists all the way up the arms, all the way out the sits bones. And maybe nod your head yes to keep your neck supple. Bringing the feet to stillness, perhaps allowing the heels to release and the hamstrings. One more breath here, and then inhale, looking forward and starting to walk with baby steps towards the top of the mat. We're arriving here in our forward fold, so you may want to have your blocks nearby. Forward fold, we are keeping our knees bent any amount. We're allowing the top half of our body to relax and surrender towards the floor.
Maybe our hands are on blocks, maybe our hands are on the floor, maybe our hands are somewhere on our legs. Just allowing, see if you can have the back muscles release, shoulders release, the neck and head feel heavy. Or if you wish, you could grasp opposite elbows and with your feet a little bit apart from each other, you could sway from side to side. And then coming back to center, taking a half lift. So on the inhale, the torso rises away from the legs. Hands can be supported by blocks, or hands could be on the mat, or hands could be on your legs. The torso is parallel to the floor, your gaze is towards the floor, and your spine is very long. Inhale here, and exhale, release. On the next inhale, tucking the tailbone and slowly rolling up to stand.
Okay, how's everybody doing? Great. So let's take a pose of stillness just for a couple of breaths. Anywhere on your mat, you can bring your hands to heart center. So palms facing each other, fingers spread, thumbs towards your heart, heart towards your thumbs. Shoulders can roll up, back, and down. Eyes can be open or closed, and take 2 deep breaths here at your own pace. And then on the next inhale, arms float up to the sky, palms facing each other. On the exhale, palms together and back to heart center. Let's do that again. So inhale, arms up. Maybe looking up, and exhale, heart center. And inhale, maybe following your hands with your gaze, and heart center. And last one, inhale, arms up, and exhale, heart center. Beautiful. And then allowing the arms to relax, and the legs, shaking them out a little bit. So now we're going to do a couple of poses where I'll give cues to bring you down onto one knee. If you do not wish to go onto one knee, you could do these lunges in a standing position. And so to do that, you could always use a chair for a little extra support. Who wouldn't enjoy a little extra support now and then? So what you would do is bring the leg back behind you, but don't bring the knee down to the floor. Keep the toes pointing forward, so all 10 toes point forward. The heel is lifted, and then do your lunge from here, okay? And if you're going to bring your knee down to the floor, then come with me. So starting at the top of your mat, bringing your right leg back behind you, and the knee comes down onto the mat. We're in our low lunge position, knee is over ankle. If you wish, you can tuck the tailbone under slightly and shift the hips a little bit forward. Then you'll feel the hip flexor and the inner thigh being stretched. Then choose your arm position. So arms could be hands to the hips. They could be above you, palms facing each other, but shoulder distance apart. They could be cactus arms, and I'm just showing you to the side, but you'll be doing this to the front. Or they could be some other arm position. So choose your arm position. Maybe looking up, feeling that low lunge. This nice stretch. One more breath here. And then lowering the arms, perhaps bringing your props near you if you're kneeling down. Shifting your weight into your back leg, straightening the front leg, pointing the toes up to the ceiling by flexing at the ankle, getting taller in your torso, hinging slightly over with your hip, and then if you're standing, stay there with hands to hips. Stop when you feel the hamstring stretch. If you're kneeling, maybe use your blocks as a support. We're stretching out the back of our front leg. It's our hamstring. We want to be nice and kind to our hamstring here, not forcing anything, just doing what feels good. One more breath. And then placing any props to the side and coming back into tabletop position or standing with 2 feet together if you're standing. Then we'll bring our other leg in front, heading into our low lunge position. If you're standing, it's high lunge position, tucking the tailbone under, maybe shifting your hips just a little bit forward, and then choosing your arm position. Again, it might be the same as what you did on the first side, it might be different, it's okay. Maybe you're looking up. Feel that open chest. And one more breath here. And then shifting your weight into your back leg, straightening the front leg. Toes pointed up towards the ceiling with a flexed foot. Bringing your props near you. On the inhale, get taller. On the exhale, start to lean forward, but not too far. Really just until you feel the hamstring stretch behind you, behind the leg. One more breath here. And then releasing props to the side, placing the foot on the floor, coming back into your lunge position by tucking the back toes. And then any way you like, bringing the back foot up to meet the front. And then tucking the tailbone and slowly rolling up to stand. Beautiful. So now we have some sun salutations, and this is one version of sun salutations. There are definitely other options and other versions, but if you're coming with me, this will be a standing version of sun salutations. So just to get ready, I'm going to move any props to the side. I am keeping my blocks out front because I'm anticipating that I might want to use them for part of the sun salutations. So coming into pose of stillness for one breath to prepare. So inhaling and exhaling. On the next inhale, arms float up to the sky. On the exhale, swan dive forward, hinging at the hips. Hands can come to blocks or to the floor or to your legs. On the next inhale, half lift. So perhaps you're using your blocks. And then exhale, lower down to the fold. And then inhale, opening the torso to one side, maybe using a block, and raising the other hand up towards the sky. And exhale, lower down. And inhale, other side. Opening the torso to the side, raising the arm, perhaps it reaches towards the sky, and then exhale, lower the arm. And then inhale, rise up, arms up, and exhale, arms to sides. Okay, so that was one sun salutation. We'll do a couple of more in a little bit quicker pace. So starting hands at heart center, inhale, arms up. And exhale, swan dive. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, take the fold. Inhale, twist to one side. Exhale, lower. Inhale, twist to the other side. Exhale, lower. Inhale, root down through the feet to rise up, arms up. And exhale, arms to sides. And last time, inhale, arms up. And exhale, swan dive. And inhale, half lift. Exhale, take the fold. Inhale, twist to one side. Exhale, lower. And inhale, twist to the other side. And exhale, lower. And inhale, root down through the feet to rise up. And exhale, arms to sides. Okay. So it's amazing how the sun salutations practice can really get your energy flowing, but can still help you feel grounded with some of the positions that we take. So now I'm going to move my blocks again, just to keep them out of the way. We have a few warrior poses. So warrior poses will start at the front of your mat. Feet can be any distance apart. And you'll be bringing your right leg back behind you into a warrior two position. So what does that mean? So that means that your front foot faces out towards the front of the mat and your back foot faces the side. Your back foot is fully on the mat. It's just pointed out towards the side of the mat. It's not angled. It's at a full 90 degrees. So your feet are perpendicular like this. Once you're there, make sure your tailbone isn't sticking out. It's with your sits bones reaching down towards the floor. Arms come out to a T shape. Front knee is deeply bent. Look down and make sure you can see your front big toe. If you cannot see it, encourage your leg coming from the hip joint to just externally rotate a little bit more so you can see your front big toe. The knee should be over your ankle. So hands to the sides in our beautiful T shape, front fingers reaching forward, back hand reaching backwards behind you along the mat. Gazing out over your front fingers and breathing. And one more breath here. So now we'll do a little flow. So on the inhale, raising both arms up, straightening both legs. And on the exhale, back to warrior two. And again, so inhale, raise up, and exhale, warrior two. One more time, inhale, raise up, and exhale, warrior two. Now inhale, flip the front palm, raise that arm up, let the back arm just dangle down, reaching for the sky, feeling that stretch along the side of your body for peaceful warrior. One more breath here. And exhale. And meet me back in warrior two. Now taking that front foot, raising the toes off the mat and placing them facing forward. So all of your 10 toes point in one direction. We'll take a wide-legged forward fold, reaching with arms to a T shape on the inhale. Exhale, reach down and forward. And your hands can come to your legs or to the mat. You can bend your knees. You could have your blocks here if that feels good to you. But we're just sort of releasing. You could bend one knee and then the other. And then on the next inhale, engage the core, come up to our half lift, and then engage the core and come all the way back up to stand, and then heel toe your way back to feet together. And now if you'll join me towards the front of your mat, we'll do the other side. I'll just move to the other side of my mat so you can see me a little bit better. So, beginning with warrior two, you'll take the other leg, bring it back behind you, and again, take your warrior two foot position. So, front foot points forward, back foot points to the side, perpendicular feet. That's very important for this pose. Tailbone is slightly tucked under, just a tiny bit. Arms float up to the sky in a T shape. Front knee is deeply bent. Look down, make sure you can see your front big toe. If you cannot see it, just gently encourage the hip to rotate outward a little bit more so you can see it. And you can always shorten your stance for these warrior poses. It doesn't have to be a certain amount of distance between your feet. Fingertips reaching forward and back at the same time. Feel the space between your shoulders, gazing out over the front fingers. And one breath here. Now we'll take our flow. So inhale, straighten your legs, reach up, and exhale, warrior two. Inhale, arms up, exhale, warrior two. And one more time, inhale, arms up, exhale, warrior two. Now flipping the front palm, raising that hand up to the sky, Feeling the stretch along your side body. Taking one more breath here. Then meeting me back in Warrior Two. Raising the front toes off the mat, pivoting them around to the front, all 10 toes face in the same direction. Inhale, arms to a T shape. Exhale, folding over, knees are bent any amount. And allowing yourself to release here, allowing yourself to feel the feet in the mat, connected. And one more breath. On the inhale, engage the core, come up to a half lift. And on the next inhale, coming all the way up to stand. And then heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, toe to the center. Okay. So we have one more standing pose called Goddess. To set up for Goddess, your feet are wider than hips width length. And your toes, instead of pointing the toes forward, your toes point out on some kind of an angle, a diagonal of any amount. And if you wish to warm up, you could take a few bends of the knees because this is where we're going to be headed. Ideally, your sits bones and your hips are pointing downward, and it's like you're on a string being lowered and raised, and you're trying not to sit like this with your fanny out. You're just going up and down. So then when you're ready, you can bring your hips lower, raise your arms to any position, but this is a traditional one where we use cactus arms. And breathe here. If you wish, you could make some audible breaths. So inhaling, exhale, ha. It's like you're saying the word H-A, ha. So inhale, exhale, ha. Feeling that energy, maybe coming out your fingertips. Inhale, exhale, ha. And then releasing the arms, the legs, maybe giving them a shake. And then if you would like, joining me down on the mat again in a seated position. And I will be using my blanket underneath my hips. That may be something that you also enjoy. If you have tight hips, tight back, a blanket placed just under your sits bones so that you're almost a little bit coming off of the blanket, that can really be a nice way to set up in a seated position. So for this seated position, we're actually going to have our feet, the soles of our feet touching each other. And I'm going to grab my blocks because there is a nice support that you can use if you wish for this bound angle pose. But your feet can be further away from you, closer into you, sort of whatever you're feeling like today is good. And if you wish, you could always have a block on either side of your leg just for a little bit more support if that feels right for you. So hands can be resting on your leg. On your inhale, get a little taller in the spine, and then on the exhale, you could reach forward, trying to keep the back long and straight. So there are poses where you round the back over, but this one we start out with a long and straight back. And maybe take another breath and see if you could come a little bit more forward. And one more time, inhale. And then exhale. And then releasing, coming back to sit up, moving any props to the side. We have boat pose. So boat pose is super good for your core. And it's also challenging, but we can make it different levels of challenging depending on how you're feeling. So to start, your knees are bent, soles of the feet are on the floor or towards the floor, and you're sitting up fairly straight. This can be a challenging position. What you're going to do is inhale, get taller, long in the spine, and then just lever your back, hinging at the hips, levering back so that it's like you're leaning back, but you're not slouching. Okay, we really want to avoid the slouch here. We want to use our core, engage the core, maybe drawing the navel towards the spine and leaning back a bit. So from here, there are a lot of different versions of boat. So you could have your hands behind your legs, just gently holding there. You could experiment with lifting one shin off the floor at a time. You could take both shins off the floor at a time. This becomes more of a balance challenge. Engage the core, really think about your core, because that's a lot of what's controlling your movement right now. You could reach your hands long for your feet, and you could even consider reaching the legs out long. Maybe adjusting your arms depending on where your center of gravity is. Any of these versions are great. You can experiment in many different ways. Giving that check, making sure your back is nice and long and strong. And one more breath, and then releasing down. So let's bring ourselves down to the mat, on our backs, placing our feet a little closer to our hips, and then lifting the hips and just bringing the hips ½ inch further away from your torso. See how you're bringing the lower back more connected to the floor? Then bring your knees in towards you and consider a happy baby pose. So your hands could be on the outsides of your legs, feet are flexed, soles pointing towards the sky. Your hands could also be on the outside of your feet, or you could take your 2 first fingers and wrap them around your big toe. And then you're in a happy baby position. If this is uncomfortable in any way, feel free to take Apanasana, where your knees are in towards your chest and you might just sway from side to side or do some knee circles, for instance. Take whatever you like. This is really about feeling good. After all of the nice work we've done in our class today. And a happy baby, you could also sway from side to side. And you're breathing here. And then when you're ready, legs come in. Legs can stretch long along the mat. You may need to reposition yourself. You can always use props. We're setting up for Shavasana. So sometimes it feels good to have a blanket underneath our knees to give our back a little bit of a release. That's one nice option in Shavasana. Or you could always have your feet on the ground, soles of the feet on the ground, and just bring your knees together and let them relax and rest in that way. So for our grounding and awareness class today, coming into our final pose, feet can flop to the side if you wish, feeling the back body connected to the floor. So the backs of your heels, the backs of the legs, the backs of your hips, maybe your mid-back and your shoulder blades. Maybe you roll your shoulders up, back, and around and let the palms face up if that feels okay for you. Feeling the tops of the shoulders, the backs of the arms, and then the back of the head, the heavy head, connecting into the mat, feeling that grounding, that presence. And as you invite your physical body to join you in these couple of moments of Shavasana, a rest pose, perhaps you also invite your mind to join us here. And as you feel yourself melting into the mat, you feel your mind softening. Enjoy the Shavasana. And if you have more time to spend here, you are welcome to do so or pause the video. If it's time to bring this portion of your practice to a close, perhaps start by wiggling your fingers, wiggling your toes, taking a deep breath. Perhaps bringing your hands above your head along the mat and taking a full body stretch from fingers to toes. And then bringing the soles of the feet to the floor with bent knees and slowly rolling over onto your right side, cradling your head with your hand. Pausing here. And then when you're ready, pressing with one hand or both hands into the floor to come up to a seated position of any style. Perhaps hands come to heart center. Perhaps bowing your head to seal in your practice. And taking one breath together, so inhaling, exhaling. Thanking yourself for being here, for being present and connected. And I too thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure, and I hope to see you next time on the mat.